Hey, good morning, everybody. We're doing an early edition of LearnBiz The Podcast. I am Sandy B, and I'm here with the lovely Lisa K. Crawford. And today,
Hey,
good morning,
good
Lisa.
morning.
And today we're talking about how to handle that complaint that comes out of left field. Now, yesterday we were talking about the Monique versus DL Hughley scenario, and we decided to go ahead and carry over the conversation into some issues that businesses may come across, and that's dealing with complaints. We see these things in Google reviews. We see these types of things when we want to travel and we look at things like TripAdvisor, or we look at reviews on Amazon when we're trying to purchase, products and goods. Sometimes someone is not pleased with your product or services, and they are inclined to say, I'm going to leave a bad review. Now, it's happened to many of us. I know it's happened to me.
Yeah.
And you have to really be careful about how you respond to customers and or clients.
True.
It's not helpful to you to really go on a blast or rant because somebody posts a negative review. And for me, I always think to myself, I'm not for everybody. And
Yeah.
someone may have an extremely great experience with me, and someone, unfortunately, due to the circumstances, may have a horrible experience with me because I'm human, right? And we all have things that are going to come along, especially with us in the legal profession, right? We have issues with the courts and the deadlines, and there's all kinds of things that pop up. But how do you handle those complaints in a way that doesn't harm your business? What do you think on this topic, Lisa?
I love this topic. I think it's a great topic. I think it's tough because even like you said, we're human, but you never expect someone to go as far as putting you on blast out there on social media, on platforms where people go to find reviews about your business. You just never expect to see that. I'm the type of person that I feel like someone can just come talk to me, and we whatever the issues are, that we can work through them and resolve them mutually, hopefully. I would appreciate that. But if someone puts me on blast, the question is whether or not I would respond publicly the way they blasted me. And I would be inclined to respond. The issue is, how do you respond? How should you respond? But I think depending on when somebody puts you on blast, it's like they're throwing you under the bus, right?
Right.
So it's not like they're really saying kind things at this point, that something that's salvageable that you can just ignore.
Well, I mean, I learned years ago in dealing with a couple of issues because, when you're just starting out, there's a lot of little mistakes you're going to make, right? And you're going to go through some ordeals. But I learned a long time ago that people are going to have something to say. And it's not always going to be the great, sweet, wonderful things that we expect.
Yeah.
But the key, at least for me, has always been to stay, or better yet, stick with the issue. They are going to often mix personal versus business in the same comment. So it's important for you to be able to address all without attack, without disrespect, and understanding that if you're putting something out into the public space, your words can come back to bite you.
That's true.
So as an example, let's say you have a product.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, I ordered a product from a company during Black Friday day, right? I ordered a product from a company. When I placed my order, the company said, shipping is going to happen within 7 business days, and then I'll get a notification. I'm going to get my product. Well, it was almost 2 months later before I actually got my product. And by then, they basically gave me my money back, and then I was able to keep the product. But the reason I had an issue with them, and I didn't write a negative review, but I could have.
Mm-hmm.
And had I done so,
Mm-hmm.
I could have attacked all kinds of things and said, oh, you guys are Black-owned company and, so-called helping Black people. I could have gone through all kinds of lengths. If it was the company responding to me saying certain personal things, the first thing that the company has to do is apologize for, the delays. but not, you can't apologize for things that people are trying to attack you with.
Right.
So you have to be clear on the parts that are actually factual, that have to do with what actually happened, versus, oh, y'all Black businesses, that's why we blah, blah, we go through all this stuff, which I hate, because I hate when people do it to me. Oh, you Black people, every time, that's why we can't do business with you. No, you may not be able to do business with me because of whatever the circumstance was in your situation. But don't mark all Black businesses because of you had a negative situation.
Exactly.
People don't do the same when they go to other businesses.
Right.
They don't do that.
Right.
So stick with the issue at hand. And if you are trying to respond to someone, especially if you're writing a response like under the review, keep it simple and straight to the point, right? My sincere apologies that you had a bad experience with our product or with our service. We strive to, do the best that we can. Sometimes things arise. We hate that you had to go through this experience, but don't go back on the attack, and don't start talking about all kinds of stuff that happened. Now, you can say something like, we attempted to resolve your issue to the best of our ability, but, unfortunately that didn't work out. So we wish you the best, kind of thing. There's no reason.
That's nice. That's very tactful to do it that way. But if, for instance, Sandy, if someone you're in a restaurant business, for instance, and someone complained that, it was some type of festival weekend and we went to the restaurant and there were lots of people in line and it took a little bit too long for them to get my order completed. To me, I'm going to read that and thought, that is a good complaint, because what she's saying is that I was really, really, really busy, but I did eventually get to her. So that's good to me. I would never respond to something like that, because that's just about the business, and that's not that bad. Sometimes there will be delays, and people they anticipate things like that. But if, like you said, someone starts with a personal attack thing, do you ignore that, or do you just say, what do you do with the personal attack?
My opinion is you need to address all comments, no matter what the comment is, good, bad, indifferent. You need to address it. Now, how you address it is the difference maker, right? Because if someone says they came to my restaurant during a festival weekend, keyword festival, you can't really be logical in going on a festival weekend when there are tons of people and act like you're going to complain about the wait. Right. Meanwhile, we'll be sitting there waiting 2-3 hours at Cheesecake Factory. So it was like, if you're going to a smaller restaurant as an example, or a restaurant that probably normally doesn't get that level of business, but they're blessed with an opportunity to deal with a festival, you got to have some patience. And so, in response, I would say to some degree, you have to address what they're saying, hey, thank you so much for your feedback. We truly appreciate your commentary. Man, we were so happy to have all of you come through to our restaurant during this festival. We hope to, in future years, be better able to kind of push through the numbers, because we had a tremendous amount of people pass through our restaurant on this day. But we hope to see you again next year, and that your experience will be a bit better. I feel like there's a way to address it, because you're not just saying, when you say my restaurant was too busy, you might give somebody the inclination to think, oh, so they can't even handle, lots of people. Well, maybe this is my first time handling a lot of people. So the next year that comes along, I'll better be able to handle, because then I'll have a little system in place to say, oh man, last year we had 2,000 people come through in this one day. Normally we only have maybe 100, right? So, people have to have a sense of compassion too, give people a little bit of grace. I'm not saying businesses are perfect, because trust me, I've had my share of complaints. And I pick and choose when I actually write a negative review. It's all about how the restaurant responds in many ways. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was gonna give you another quick example. Here's one. Got my meal today. It was a falafel salad. The falafel was dry and small. It was just a bunch of dry lettuce, and I couldn't eat it. Say someone posts that about your business online. I have some examples of maybe how you should or how you could respond, but what would you say to that one?
I mean, again, definitely address the issue. Thank you so much for coming into our restaurant. We're so sorry that you had a bad experience with our falafel. We hope you'll come back again And, some restaurants even offer you a freebie. I remember I went to a restaurant locally for a birthday, and I told them that they had horrible service. My order was completely wrong. They basically messed up my family member's birthday because we were relying on some great food from this place that we've always gone to. Well, they called me back. They actually responded to my post and they said, give us a call. We hope to make it better. And I think they had offered us like some gift cards or something like that. Some restaurants will do that. But it's all about, what the comment or complaint says. If you're going to do a personal attack, you're going to get some folks that are going to, come at with you with the backlash. So you got to be careful, even the folks making the comments, who you're talking to. But I think it's important for a restaurant owner, any business owner, stay focused on the task at hand. Don't go on those tangents with people because you're not going to win in the court of public opinion.
Right. Yeah. And I had a situation with a client where in a pleading, there were 5 points or 5 issues. Somehow in my filing, there were only 4. So there was one issue that was not addressed. Right. And the client reviewed and said, well, wait a minute, we discussed 5 points. I had to go back and file an amended pleading.
Right.
I didn't argue with the client. I realized that there was an error in the draft and I corrected it. And that's how, in certain circumstances, that's all you can do is just be humble about it, correct the problem, and get back on the right track as soon as possible. In cases like that, you don't want to argue and give a bunch of excuses that your dog died or your dog ate your motion. I'm just saying, people come up with it. Sometimes you don't need an excuse. You just say, you know what? We're definitely going to do better. Thank you for pointing that out, and keep it moving. Sometimes it might be as simple as that.
Yeah. And sometimes, things happen. And this is the human element that I really wish more people understood. Some clients are real responsive. Errors happen, things happen. But you may get that client that's really not responsive to your attempts to resolve. And you just have to keep it moving. Sometimes you're not going to please somebody. They're just going to be, I've learned, unfortunately, and this is something that I hate to say, but I have to say it out. As Black business owners, I feel that we are held to a completely different standard than any other grouping of business owners. And I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
I have had clients come to me, basically coming from another law firm that don't look like me, right?
Right.
Coming from another law firm where they were ignored for over a year.
Oh boy.
And they're coming to me with gripes of, man, they didn't, respond to me, blah, blah, blah. But here's the key thing that I've noticed as a common trend. They're not writing reviews about these people. They're not filing complaints about these people. They're not reporting them to the bar. They're not blasting them on social media. Meanwhile, the same person will come to a Black-owned business and be ready to light them a fire in every platform that they can. And I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. I literally had somebody not long ago basically complaining and was like, oh, that's why I don't do business with Black-owned businesses. But meanwhile, and I can't say the other stuff I want to say, but meanwhile, you're going to go to A, B, and C business. They're not going to treat you with nothing. They're not going to give you anything extra. They're not going to do nothing personal. They're simply going to take your money and thoroughly take your money, and you will have no problem. That's one gripe that I have with our community. I can't speak for other communities. I can only speak for the Black community as a part and the Haitian community as a part. So that's one real gripe that I have. And I think that's what creates certain sour responses from certain Black business owners that I really hope people understand, that you can't respond because for a fact that the only reason they're griping with you is because you are a Black-owned business. And I've had it happen to me numerous times with other people that don't look like me who became my clients. When we start off, everything is cool. And then all of a sudden, if something goes wrong, all of a sudden I'm not capable, right?
That's amazing. And Sandy, why are you pulling that skin back this morning? You're pulling that skin back. You're going to make me have to go there too and deal with some things, because boy, did you just ring a bell with me when you talked about that scenario. in our community. I've had
Right.
some issues like that over time as well. And it's not pleasant. And sometimes people come to you thinking you're supposed to be a certain way or a certain thing.
Right.
Like I actually had someone who hired me when I was doing a lot more criminal law back in the day, ask me, are you going to be a bitch?
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking like,
That's how we're doing it.
That's really wanted to know if, before they paid me their hard money, I guess, if I was going to be a bitch to the other side, because that's what they needed, someone who would be a pure bitch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's amazing. So people have these notions for you of what they want to pay you for.
Right.
And you got to set them straight and let them know what you will do and what you won't do. And I think is when you set those boundaries early and often, people understand a lot better and a lot sooner, because people can't use you for that's not what your business is for. Like, you know what I mean? So I've dealt with certain issues like that. And then there's been the thing in criminal law, because I did a lot of criminal law earlier on. There were some folks in the Black community who would never hire a Black criminal defense attorney.
Absolutely.
And that really bugged me, because I would hear comments like, oh no, if I ever got in trouble on a criminal case, I'm going to get a Jew. I'm going to get me a Jewish lawyer. And I never understood why I was hearing things like that. And I began asking questions, and people, the way they look at it is that we're going to get the person who we feel is more connected with that judge on the bench, because they're going to get some better deals in the cases than, maybe some Black lawyer who doesn't even contribute politically to these judges' campaigns.
And that's a misconception at all proportions, right? Because you can't assume that someone is going to get you anything just because of your stereotypical thoughts about that person standing in the community, no matter who it is. And that's unfortunate, because I've heard that. I've had Haitian clients that will tell me they want to go to a certain type of lawyer. And I'm just looking at them like, but you don't even speak English. I speak your language. I can send you to someone else who speaks your language as well. You want to go to somebody because you believe that they are what representative of what a lawyer is supposed to be, but you don't speak their language. And they're not trying to speak your language either, because that's not their problem.
Yes.
So, and in those situations, guess what? I'm all but happy to send you wherever you want to go. Whatever treatment you get, leave it to environment. But, something I want to touch on that you just said that's really, really important is, many times as Black business owners, we are basically stamped with some kind of like a mark where we are not the authority in whatever the area is. And I see it a lot in the practice of law. Black attorneys are always given the short end of the stick in many situations. And that's at all levels. It's not just the clients that do this, like it's other aspects of the system that I don't even want to talk about.
The courts, the judges, they've been disrespectful. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of BS, but I just keep on ticking.
Pretty much. And so, again, we always have to keep focused on our responses. Uh-oh, look who's up early morning. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Doug.
So, I mean, it's just important for us to be able to, we have to know how to address our responses, because as I said to you earlier, I've had folks basically be disrespectful because they knew what I look like, right? I'll give you an example. I had a client. A lot of my clients come to me virtually. So the only time we meet is if we do a video conference, because sometimes we're just talking on the phone. We exchange the documents by email, and we don't meet at all. They don't know what I look like. I don't know what they look like, but we can only assume. And most of the time, hearing my voice doesn't trigger what my background is for many. So I had this client, never met them before. We had a court date, and I had to travel because I was going to Central Florida for this particular case. So when I get to the courthouse with my partner, two Black girls walking up, two Black women, walking up, I swear the whole family looked like a ghost had taken them over. Because it was almost like they were like, oh, they're black. How did we miss that? And I won't tell you the background of the family, but I'll tell you they don't look nothing like us.
Right on.
So I could see the ghost face on. And it was like, oh, they're black. How did we miss that? I'm like, you missed that because when I speak on the phone, you don't know what my background is whatsoever because there's something about, oh, you speak so proper. And I'm like, that's not speaking proper. That's just speaking English. We can use slang and do all kinds of things that we want to do, but it's not speaking proper. And for my black folks, it's not speaking white because that's just not what it is. It's called using your words and putting them together. So I had that situation. And guess what happened after that?
What?
As soon as they knew what I looked like, all of a sudden, everything I was doing was wrong. So now they got questions about each thing I'm doing. And I'll just be sitting there looking at them. And I'm like, man, I should have charged them more. Because they started picking and choosing. Ended up not being my client. Like, we terminated relationship with one another because they decided they wanted to get another lawyer that looks like them. Okay. They didn't say that in so many words, but I knew what time it was because they were just talking trash. And then it was just like, oh, so you got a new lawyer, but guess what? I still get the pleading. So I see what he's doing. He's not doing nothing different than what I so specifically said to you. But my word was no longer enough because now all of the delays that happened in the case, which were rightfully delays in the case, were all of a sudden, it's like, I'm not capable. But then I looked at what their attorney filed after me, which is exactly what I told the family I was going to do afterwards. And they were like, fine. Lawyer charged them all kinds of extra money. I wasn't charging them extra money. I had done a flat rate with them. So if there were any issues or delays, but they would rather pay somebody else more money than actually see me as a professional. That's where I was just like, oh.
That is so sad. But what if they had taken that extra step and written about that? What if they had written, all of a sudden, this attorney is incompetent and can't do A, B, C, and D, and you knowing the real reason behind why they're putting that out there, just because you find out that they're biased in some way. How do you respond to that? Or how would you respond to that if it were in the public domain and writing?
Real easy. So there's a couple of things that happen sometimes when people post comments. I had somebody that came to me for free work. And when I say free work, as in I was not going to get paid for the work. So what free work means is I can't do your work every hour of every day. I have to fit it in between my paid cases. This woman was blowing up my phone, and I shouldn't say who it is, but this person was blowing up my phone. All of a sudden, I became the worst attorney ever. All of a sudden, she wanted to write this long review claiming all these things and that she had to hire another lawyer. Oh, wait, let's step back. I thought you couldn't afford a lawyer. How you hiring another lawyer when you couldn't afford to pay me? And I decided to take your case without $1.
Right.
But now I'm all kinds of incompetent. I'm like, oh, okay. I hope your lawyer gets exactly what he's looking for because he's going to bleed you dry. And you may not get nothing near the result that you get. I hope that that's what you are looking for because that's what's going to happen. Now, the response to that is the following. Depending on what platform they post the review, I'll just delete the review. If it's on like Google, I think you can't delete it. But if you're on like, I want to say if it's Facebook or something, I think you can either delete it or hide it or something like that. And most of the time I keep these things because I want to remember the next time I have the delusional thought that I'm going to contribute freely of my time without any rationale, I'm going to go back and look at that review and remind myself, no, you're not doing that. If you want to do pro bono, you can do it. There's a lot of 100 different ways that you can do it. But be mindful of people that come to you with the sad story. And the next thing you know, want to be like all up on you when things don't go the way they expect. Because remember, we can't give guarantees.
Right.
Because there are no guarantees.
Right. Yeah, if a lawyer promises you a certain outcome, run. Because lawyers should not make promises about outcomes. Then, especially when we are dealing with courts and judges, we are not the judges. We can make the arguments and be as persuasive as possible to get your point across over, but we are not the judge. So just understand that. I have another.
Let me add my comment to the complaint, right? So, in terms of the complaint itself, most of the commentary is going to be a personal attack. So as I said, your response has to start with focusing on the issue at hand. addressing the personal is not so much of your battle, but being clear that you're not going to just talk to me any kind of way. So
Right.
First of all, it's unfortunate that you chose this avenue to respond, even though we addressed, even though I communicated with you and addressed your issue. Please, if you have anything further, you can either reach out to the bar or you can contact me personally and we can discuss. I'm not going to discuss anything further here because some people are trying to bait you into a back and forth. So stick with the issues, keep it short. Don't try to match tit for tat because they're going to attack you personally and you're just going to say, please refrain from giving these disparaging comments because you know that they are not true. And if you have anything further that you want to address, I have no problem discussing this issue with you further. And that's it. And I'm not going to go back and forth with you. Now, if you choose to go back and forth, now you're harassing me. We're not doing that. So if you have a complaint, file the complaint with the proper entity, which is called the Florida Bar. And if your complaint is viable, the Florida Bar will discipline me. But that's why people a lot of times will post some of these reviews, especially for lawyers, because they're not going through the extra steps of filing a proper complaint. So that's just
they just want to put it out there in the public and hope that hurts you. I mean, that I had a lady, speaking of respect, I have a person in Ohio. Now you guys know it's a lady. But yeah, this particular lady had her estate planning documents done. I did them for her. And I found out that they were not properly executed. Instead of following my instructions, she used a notary to execute her will, and there are no witnesses there.
Oh boy.
I gave her specific instructions because obviously we're in two different states. And she didn't follow my instructions. Instead, she went and got the notary, and the notary told her that she doesn't need witnesses because she has a notary. So now the notary person is giving legal advice to my client. And guess who believes the notary over me?
Your client.
I'm done.
Yeah. So now when things go wrong and she comes back and files a complaint, I'm sorry, again, stick to the issue because the personal attack is not going to work.
It's just amazing. Yeah. So some days, I feel like Rodney Dangerfield, but more and more, I have clients who definitely listen and take my advice. I mean, I haven't been out here for 30 years whistling Dixie,
Look, I think the biggest challenge for the Black business is understanding the role of reviews, understanding the role of any kind of critique. We're supposed to get feedback in one way, shape, or another. And when we receive that feedback, it's supposed to be motivation for us to make certain adjustments, to improve systems and processes, to make certain changes to the way that we operate and the way that we work with our customer base. But because, many of us really haven't dealt with this kind of realm, right? Growing up, we don't understand how to deal with criticism in a way that, when someone's trying to attack you, like, how do you deal with it? Most of us are considering, oh, you attacking me, I'm attacking you. That's the thought process, and that's for human nature. Somebody's attacking you, you want to attack them.
Or some people think it's racial that you're attacking them. Like if you go in a restaurant, I've been concerned about going in a restaurant when I really wanted to give them some constructive criticism. I'm thinking like, well, maybe I shouldn't say anything because the first thing they're going to think is I don't want to pay for my food. This thing works.
And it's unfortunate because you can get a lot from feedback. The problem is you have to understand how to handle it. And for this, I would say there are tons of resources free online where you can look at different scenarios and try to figure out the best way to word things. And there's a lot of websites too that even give you wording. If somebody says this is how you attack it. If somebody, so I think as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you have to be prepared to receive criticism. And you have to be prepared to the level that when you see somebody post that Google review or that Facebook review or that Amazon or, whatever platform or area that your information is, your product or service is posted, you got to be ready to respond. And the best thing you could do is respond right away. Again, keep it simple, keep it short. If you want some ideas, sometimes you can look at other people's reviews, people who usually respond, because many times they have a boilerplate statement that they say, and then they tack on something with it.
Right.
So they'll always say, thank you so much for coming to our, restaurant, or thank you for so much for purchasing our product. We're so sorry that you had a bad experience. And then they'll have a little blurb that they add depending on what the scenario is. They don't go long-winded. Sometimes they'll offer something like a gift card, or next time you come, we'll, do a free sandwich or whatever. And I think that's a really good way.
I like that.
To build community is, if somebody's telling you, look, my stuff was burnt and I'm sending you a picture. Look, I ordered this today. I just got home and look at it.
All right.
Then you have something that you can work with and say, you know what? Next time you come in, it's on us. We'll get you a free sandwich. I'm not saying
please don't take any pictures of that and put that out on social media. We'll give you 3 free sandwiches.
And that's the thing sometimes too, I think we have apprehension of giving commentary. I know I do, because a lot of times I'll go to the small mom and pop. They have reviews online. I could write the review, but sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm going to hurt the business. But if I don't hurt the business a little bit, they're never going to change, right? So but
you can always talk to them. That's what I'm saying. You can always go and talk to them. That's what I appreciate, being the type of person I am. Come and talk to me, because I'm one of those people that says, let's reason together.
So let me ask you this then, Lisa.
Okay.
You gonna go be nice, Lisa? Hey, just wanted to let you know. And they're like, don't come back to my restaurant. If you don't like it, you don't have to have it. What are you going to do in response to that?
And then I'm going to go and write about it.
Oh, Lord. Retaliation.
Well, no,
review.
But I would try to, if it's something that I feel that the public would need to know about or could benefit from, I may go ahead and write something about it, but I'll still try to be tactful.
Right.
I'm not going to just be nasty and just trying to personalize it. And, say things like, I wonder what DL stands for real.
Oh, man, not the Monique versus DL. Like, I really went back and looked at a little bit of that. And I was like, just imagine that as being a review, right? Imagine that being a review and the response. Many folks in a lot of the comments that I've seen said DL handled it appropriate. He didn't really, especially at the time. So we're talking specifically at the time versus, after the aftermath. At the time, he handled it pretty well. I mean, he just made a couple of comments, joked it off, and then kept it moving. And a lot of comparison was done. It was like, well, she spent like 10 minutes and he spent like 1 minute. So it's just like, all right, she at least, got whatever out for her chest, but he didn't waste too much time with it and kept moving. I feel the same way about when people leave reviews for your business. You got to pick and choose your battles. You got to pick and choose the tone that you want to use, because other customers, other potential clients are looking at how you respond to reviews.
That's true.
They're looking to see whether you've not responded at all. They're looking to see whether you've responded and went on a tangent. They're looking to see whether you responded with some respect or whether you stooped to whatever the comment was.
Exactly.
Because I know I do.
You have to almost imagine like you have an audience looking at you while you're responding.
Right.
So, how would you handle this if you have a bunch of folks looking over your shoulder, breathing down your neck, watching everything you do? And you have to think about it like that, because you're not just talking to that person when you're responding. You are talking to the public.
Yeah. I'll use the court as an example. When you have a plaintiff versus a defendant and you got a jury box, the jury is looking to see your reactions on both sides. The jury is looking to see what your reaction is when the other person is on the stand. They're looking to see what her reaction or his reaction is to you on the stand. It makes a difference. They're looking to see how you answer questions. And I equate that to the same for comments and reviews. When somebody posts a comment, it's intended for others to see. And then when you respond, it's also intended for others to see. So you have to understand that your response to negative reviews or comments is under a microscope.
Right.
And how
Right.
you respond can forever affect other folks who are coming to your site. I know for me, when I'm about to order something, I tend to go through the reviews. I know the reviews that are purely personal, because you can tell by the way they write them. I know the reviews that are like, all right, I went here, I ordered, the food was generally good, but these are the negative things that happened. Or my meal was terrible. I tried to call the restaurant. This is what they said. Those are comments that you're going to look to when you're making a decision whether you go to the restaurant. If there was stuff in my food,
important.
They are.
Reviews, I do. You know what? You're making me think how much I really do rely on reviews. Even if I'm shopping for products like on Amazon or something something I've never used, I'm going to read the reviews first before I actually order.
Right.
Reviews are very important. So people rely on them. So we do have to kind of deal with that, because people will do business or not do business with you based on those reviews.
So, as we talk about this topic, so today we're talking how to handle that complaint that comes out of left field. And, we've given some different scenarios where, people post these really out there complaints, and it's like you have to find a way to answer it without really stepping outside of yourself. Now, if it's in your character to be hostile, I mean, you might want to be careful about putting responses down. But, I think as an entrepreneur, you have to have a level of skin that recognizes there are going to be things that want to rub you wrong.
Right.
And how you respond to these things can make or break your ability to draw more clientele. I know I look at reviews a great deal, especially when I'm traveling. Maybe I'm looking at an Airbnb or a hotel, and I want to really know, what time it is when that hotel, provides certain services, or whether or not it's going to be clean. You can tell by the level of reviews, because you'll have a whole bunch of reviews that'll say certain similar things. When you see that similar pattern, that should give you a little trigger, like, the hotel could do better on cleanliness. And every other review says, it was not that clean. They needed to come. Yeah. You start seeing stuff like that. It's like, oh, I'm not staying there. I don't care what you all are doing over there. Or renovations are going on and there's a lot of noise, and somebody else says renovation, somebody else says noise, somebody else says dust, somebody else, you can see some common trends. Same with, a restaurant. You start seeing things like, oh, there was a hair in my food. The manager was very rude when I tried to address an issue, or the service is very poor, or there's really slow service. And you start to see people writing the same things. It gives you a trend of sorts. So that's why it's important to respond, because guess what? Someone may be going to a restaurant or a hotel that's in a very heavily populated area. Maybe they have a lot of conferences or festivals or conventions coming through their area. So the wait may be standard in that area. Right?
That's true. That happens sometimes. That does happen.
Heavily populated area, period. And that's just the way that area is. And you have to expect a wait no matter where you go. Those things matter, but someone won't know that's coming from another area. So that's why it's important to be able to handle these, these comments and these reviews without allowing yourself to go out into left field, right? Because if it's coming from left field, you're not trying to go out to left field to figure out where it came from. You're staying where you are, addressing the issue where you are, and leaving all that left field stuff on its own, right? I'm not saying not to respond, but be mindful of your response, because sometimes people are trying to bait you into nonsense, and your words can be used against you later, as we saw in Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp, or better yet, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. We saw all these people's text messages, their video messages, their picture. I'm like, bruh, I didn't need to know all of that. I really didn't need. And now we're looking at Monique and DL, and we're like,
we don't need to see all this.
We ain't need you to post the contract and then post the other contract. Y'all deal with that. Yeah, but it does give us good stuff to talk about. So.
It gives us great stuff. And Sandy, you know what? I had a doctor's appointment this past week. I left. I waited for an hour. When I think about an hour of time, I can't sit past an hour and just keep sitting there waiting. I
Right.
checked. They got me back in the room. I was still waiting. And once that hour 15 hit, I just said I have to come back and reschedule.
Right.
I could have made, I could have written something, because at the place where I go, they send you this thing like, please respond. How was your visit? How was your visit? And I kept ignoring it because I knew I would have to say something bad about that doctor's scheduling system. So I didn't say anything. But now I have this example real quick where there was I was looking at some different ways you can, handle the criticism. And there was this patient here saying that she went to a hospital. The first time she went to the doctor, she was 15 minutes late. The doctor didn't see her. She said, but today I came on time. My appointment was at 4:20 and I showed up at 3:20, and I had to leave because I still had to wait over an hour to be seen. So she was there an hour early. They still didn't see her for an hour, and then she ended up leaving. Well, she got a response back from the physician's office. And he says, in response to your comment about waiting times, we can assure you that our goal is always to see patients in a timely manner. But sometimes emergencies happen, or there are other circumstances beyond our control, which mean we need more time than expected with the patient before they're able to be seen by another provider. We do everything we can, from staff scheduling changes and better communication across departments, so these situations don't happen too often. But when they do, it's frustrating for everyone involved, including both patients and providers alike.
Now, I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are on that whole comment. That's way too long. That's way too much information. It may be that this office just has a late issue, right? Where they're scheduling way too many people at one time, and that needs to change. But, my parents were going to a doctor's office for a very long time, that every single visit, they were waiting for almost an hour. I go to my doctor's office, I'm waiting for 2 seconds.
Nice.
They have a lot of movement. They have a lot of people coming in and out, but they're probably not scheduling 10 people at 11:45.
Yeah.
So I think those types of issues, when they're responding, they should say, we're going to do better. Next time you come for your appointment, they're going to try to make sure you're getting in. Doctors are a different breed. It's a hard thing because of the way that they do their scheduling. But sometimes I think we do have to post those comments or let the doctor's office know, look, like, if I had an appointment and I was late, you guys would send me back home. So, I mean, there has to be a takeaway here. Like, you can't tell somebody, oh, this happens periodically, but when she was 15 minutes late, you were telling her goodbye. You didn't give her any grace. So right. I think you kind of create a dual issue there. And, to me, some doctor's offices that I've been to over the years, I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to find another doctor. And I found somebody that works better with my schedule. 10, 15, 20 minutes, sometime 30 minutes. Gotcha. Hour every time I go. Half day every time I go. No.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
No, that just means you might need to find a different doctor's office, unfortunately. And yeah, maybe not everybody can do that all the time. I know for periods of time I wasn't able to just keep switching around. But sometimes you just have to find a different provider in hopes that you'll have some better service or go to a different location.
So you don't think that was conciliatory enough from the doctor's behalf to basically acknowledge everything that she said, but just explain why these delays happen?
No, because when you kicked her back home after 15 minutes late, I had a problem with that. Because now you're okay with giving her an hour of wait time, but you're quick to send her home. Yeah. I understand the policy because I know that you can't, do all this stuff, but she probably would have been waiting for an hour anyway. Right? So I think, there has to be a balancing act, because now she has a complaint because you're kicking me out. But yeah, you want me to wait for you for an hour. That's just not, that's not even killed.
I guess their point of view is like, if your appointment is at 4:20 and you show up at 3:20, that first hour is not really on us, right?
Look, they can do what they want to do, but I didn't really care for that response, because that response was just like, let me tell you what I need to tell you, and that's all I care about. I would have really appreciated them saying, please understand that sometimes we have some delays, and that's pretty much it, and we hope that we, have a better response time to you the next time you come. They need to go through all these details about the time schedule and all of that. Sometimes I feel like you're giving people too much, because now what happens when she responds to that? And then are you going to respond to that too? Because then she's going to be like, oh, so if I'm 15 minutes late, you kicking me back. Because there's some people that this is what they want to do.
They will engage you. They will seriously engage you if you allow that. Yeah,
they will. And I think sometimes you can lose clients or customers by the way that you respond to them, because people kind of read through a lot of things. And sometimes when you're a little too wordy, a lot of times people will read into that of, remember yesterday we were watching, and I hate to go back to this, but it's just like perfect examples. Yesterday we're trying to watch that Monique video where, she's trying to have a conversation, the hour-long video. Man, we still was trying to figure out the roots 30 minutes in, 45 minutes in. That's how I feel about reviews and feedback to the reviews. Right. If you're going to address the issue, address the issue. I don't need to hear about the history of reviews, how your company got started, the fact that your assistant was gone. Get to the point.
Right.
Sincerely apologize. We were short-staffed today. We hope that you'll have a better experience the next time you come.
I like that. I think you're right.
Lengths. That's my thought.
Sweet, simple, and short is good enough. I think you're absolutely right. So if that's a takeaway, then that's a good takeaway from our broadcast this morning. Right. Just saying like how to respond and don't get into the personalism of the attacks. Right. Don't even give it any credit or credence or however you say that. Just, I don't know if you completely ignore it, but do not go toe to toe with attacks. And just, I would acknowledge how irrelevant and unprofessional and how it doesn't have anything to do with anything, and just kind of leave it there.
Yeah. And sometimes you really have to do that because, we can get bogged down by thinking that we're going to respond to all of the things and issues that people are having with us. And I'm like, that's not going to help you. You really have to stay focused on what it is that you need, and then let all this other stuff go, and not trying to, combat somebody who doesn't care about what you're trying to say.
Right.
They really don't. So
that's true.
Well,
I think we got it covered. I think we got it covered. Yeah. So I like our views on how to deal with complaints when somebody puts you on blast in the public. Yeah. There's ways to deal with it, but you don't have to get down in the mud and wallow with them.
Absolutely. So today we talked about how to handle that complaint that comes out of left field. We so appreciate you for tuning in. And if you're catching the replay, let us know how you have handled complaints that have come out of left field, or any thoughts that you have about the way that complaints should be responded to. We would love to hear your feedback. Also, please don't forget to click the like button. Click the subscribe button so you'll be notified about future videos. And stay tuned. We have some stuff coming up. I know that we have Kristen Kitchen coming up, which the Dunn's Josephine Hotel. She's going to talk to us about the hospitality industry and this lovely spot that was basically carved out in the Overtown, Florida area. Well, I don't know what they're calling it now.
I love this.
I know it to be Overtown. So
it's Overtown. It's still Overtown.
Okay. They're changing all the names in Miami now. I can't even function.
Right.
But we're going to be talking to Miss Kristen Kitchen. And we also have another guest who is going to talk to us about the consulting field. So we'll be posting that information really soon. Again, our Entrepreneur Mindset Summit, we're going to keep talking about it because we think it's a great resource for you to be able to build your knowledge base on many critical areas of business. Because as an entrepreneur, it's all about learning and being really connected. And I know we have some great topics coming up. So Please stay tuned. Click the like button. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at B is for BIZ.
Yes.
And stay tuned for some more video clips from our previous seasons. We do have a great bank of content that you will find extremely helpful no matter what area of business you're in. Because trust me, you'll learn a little bit from every single business owner that we have interviewed on this platform.
Absolutely. So, we have.
We've learned a whole bunch. Yeah. So we're glad that you tuned in for this early morning edition. We'll probably try to do a couple of these every so often to see what type of response we get, because we tend to get a lot of replays. So we'll try to find the sweet spot. But have a great Friday. Stay safe out there. I know in South Florida, we're in for a tropical storm warning. So they're starting with that foolishness again. I don't have no time. I don't have no time for this weather. I'm done with it. Go back. I know,
but you guys be safe, because I think we're going to get a huge rain event this weekend. And So get your galoshes out, Sandy.
I'm going to go buy some now because I don't know how I've lived in Florida all this time and I didn't have any. That should have been a primary. You know how many times I'm walking and my shoes get all soaked, or I'm wearing some sandals or something and my feet are completely wet. I'm like, that's like a hazard. Like, I should have some galoshes. I'm going to find some this weekend for sure. I'm going to Amazon. Forget that. I'm not even going to look for them. I'm going to find them on Amazon.
Make sure you check the reviews.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a great day and enjoy your weekend. We will see you next week.
Bye.